and I'm standing because I have this awesome sit stand desk, and I typically just don't really use it for its full potential. So today I was like, dude, I'm gonna use my sit stand desk and stand and see how it goes. So I'm really excited about it. Hi. If this is your first time seeing me here, my name is Janae, and I totally nerd out on how your mind works and things that keep you stuck. So if those are things that interest you, then you are in the right place. If you are watching on YouTube, then go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell so that you can be notified whenever new videos come on, which is pretty much every Monday, Wednesday. Sometimes I sprinkle a little extra in there, so make sure you head on over to YouTube if you're not watching on YouTube and you kind of jive with what I'm talking about. So today I want to talk about how to change your abundance story. And you might be like, what is an abundance story? And like, why would I even want to change that? So I'm going to start by giving this very extreme example that you have probably heard before. And then I will like bring it back into context of normal stuff, normalcy, what is normal, but normalcy. And we'll go from there. Okay. So we have probably all heard the story of someone who did not have a lot of money. Also, I should note before I go any further, I truly don't believe that abundance equals dollars necessarily. That's a whole different topic that I can go really deep into. However, it's just a really good one to use for an example standpoint. So we're going to go with it. Okay. So think of someone who didn't have a lot of money, and then bam, one day they win the lottery. So they won the lottery. So then, like, out of nowhere, it's like, okay, I went from not having a ton of money to having like an abundance of money, more than like I would reasonably make like in a year or whatever time frame. Okay, cool. And then we hear all the stories though of people who have done that and somehow found themselves right back where they started without having money. They spent their money on tons of things and they did not like allocate it properly where it could be used for an extended period of time. What happened here? Like, how did this happen? And the truth is, all of this has to do with their abundance story. Because what happened is while their physical, what was happening around them changed, right? Like if you think of like dollars, like none to a ton, that changed. However, the story that they told themselves, the story that was true for them, did not change, making it literally impossible for them to maintain a level of abundance. Abundance is almost can be equated to like freedom, when you think of financial freedom, financial independence, things like that, where the amount of money it takes for one person can be completely different for the next person. However, if that story does not shift and grow with you, then you will either find yourself in the same place where it is now repeating, or sometimes even worse off, where it's like, oh, I hit this high point, and then like, well, bam, I'm somehow like right back where I started. What happened? It's a sign that your abundance story has not changed. Okay, so let's talk about like what this shows up as on a regular basis. Okay, I have my notes here, so I'm not going to get super off topic today. So when you think of your money stories, your abundance story, we have to start thinking about when we grew up, like as a child, what were the things that were so normal for you that you have now carried into adulthood? And I am going to like drop some sayings that you may have heard. Maybe it's even things that you're saying. And this is just a reflection for you to figure out what is your story. If you listen to how you talk, you will know exactly what your story is and what story you are projecting forward for your future. So when something happens, we've all heard of affirmations. And typically we talk about those in the positive light of like, I am confident, I am proud, I am bold, all these things. We can also be affirming things for us that are actually negative. So for example, I can't afford this. I don't have money for that. It's just, I'm in a really tight spot. And I'm not to like at all take away from the literal sense of like, things happen in real life. I am well aware of that. Like growing up, I grew up not having a ton of money. And so I completely understand what it's like to be in that space of like insecurity and that. But it's just, how do you talk to yourself, even with the most basic things? So when you were going to pay for your ticket at a restaurant, are you like, oh my gosh, this like we spent so much money on this is not worth it? Or are you grateful for the ability that you were actually able to pay that bill? When you go every month and you're paying your utilities, is it something that you dread doing? Or is it something that you're like, wow, me paying this enables, these other people to make a living. And it's also that I get the opportunity to do this thing. So it's just changing how you shift about it. Nothing that I'm going to recommend in this video has anything to do with like, hey, go out and like get a better job and like make more money, or go sell all your stuff. Like none of that. I want to talk about like, even if you were to have an abundance of money fall in your pocket, you found this briefcase on the side of the street, whatever it is, would your actual situation change, or would you end up right back where you were? All right, cool. So another thing that I want to talk about is when we can start shifting from that mindset of not having enough to one of abundance, the first thing to change is vocabulary. And I've talked before about having like a gratitude journal or something where you can like write down things that you're grateful for. And just start to speak life over that area of your life. I have like practiced this, and I'm going to be honest, it really helps if you can have someone kind of like check you, because we're human, right? So like you may slip up, but it's always just like a continuous work in progress when it comes to developing your story in a way that actually serves the goal that you're going towards. Because something that is really, really important for you to know is that your mind actually listens to you the most. And its goal is to make sure that you are right, regardless of what you're saying. So my challenge to you is that make sure that the words that you are saying and the things that you believe and the things that you think are actually in alignment with where you want to go and not just where you are. Because a coaching program that I went through, they always say where you are is not who you are. And so the same way that you may have a notepad full of abundance quotes and like, oh my gosh, all these affirmations of, money flows to me or whatever it is, or I'm confident, I'm bold, I'm proud. Make sure that in everyday life, it's not just some activity that we do like in the morning when we first wake up. It's something that we can like carry throughout the day. And the more that we can take that story and we can carry that story throughout our day and like have it integrate to be part of who we are, that is when those shifts will change. That is when our abundance story will start to change. And like one of my favorite sentences to say is I get to, instead of I have to, I should, I get to do these things. I get to do that. And that alone just changes it from a place of like, oh my gosh, I have to, right? Like your whole body language just shifts all at once to like, wow, I really get to do this thing. So I hope that, let me see if I had something else that I was trying to get to. Obviously, there are some like practical things that you can do as well. In terms of like a lot of people go to like paying by cash. I personally am like, I don't really do those things. But I think really what I want to focus on in terms of abundance story is I want you to think about like, how can you show up as the version of yourself that really serves you the most? And an exercise that I really like to do is to actually write out what I want my story to be. And the areas that you feel the most resistance as you write them, just do this as a free-flowing exercise. Those are the areas to kind of like work on, like, where exactly did this mindset part come from? So for example, oh my gosh, the moment that money comes to me, it's just gone out the door. That's an abundance story that you have, or the opposite, right? So where did that come from? Is that really true? Is that something that you want to speak over yourself? Or is it just something that you've heard over and over again and it's just now part of like your casual conversation? And you will, the more awareness that you gain about this about yourself, the more awareness that you will like start to notice around you as well. And just get someone close to you to kind of like, hey, remind me when I'm like, saying these things that happen on autopilot where sometimes we don't even catch ourselves. And you can then like make that shift. Okay. So hopefully this was helpful. If you really jive with this video and you're like, ooh, I love talking about this, then you can go ahead and jump on over to my free Facebook community. It's amazing. There are a bunch of women there who are just really living in their most empowered version of themselves and really up leveling where they are. We talk about topics like this abundance and confidence and all of these things that sometimes we don't talk about in real life, and give practical steps for how we can actually work through these things to step into our own version of success. Okay. So, with that being said, I hope that you are having an amazing start to your week, and I will see you back here on Wednesday. Okay, bye.